What up, everybody? Welcome into the College Chaos Podcast. I'm Garrett Ross. He's Jack McKenzie. And, man, we made it, man. It's March. March Madness is here. How you feeling? How you feeling about it?
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
I love this time of year, dude. Like, I love telling this story every time March rolls around. I used to work in the hospital, and I worked with this guy from Kentucky, and it literally was like clockwork. He took off the first 2 weeks, regardless, would go home and dial in, and that's always resonated with me. And it's just one of those things now where, you know, the conversation comes, are you going to make the day after the Super Bowl a national holiday? And then why not make March Madness, you know, a holiday? Why not? We're to the point, right? It needs to be a holiday.
It's like the great long spring weekend everyone can take a little vacation on, and you can choose how you want to spend it. But for me, I was trying to describe it the way I feel about March Madness to a couple of our interns over text the other day. I'm like, honestly, it's like a combination of a holiday and something. I was raised Catholic, and so the term holy day of obligation.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a mix of a holiday and a holy day of obligation for me.
I love that so much, dude.
Like you have to watch. It is a holy day of obligation.
If you're not locked in, there's just something is wrong. Like I'm not sure. Did you watch any of the games last night? Like I forget the play-in games even. Well, I don't say I forget. And I'm one of, which this is probably going to happen to a million people across the country. I realized they were on last night, and I'm like, oh, where the hell is True TV? So, like, I don't have like the list or like a TV guide or something on my TV, and I usually have this piece of paper that I don't know how the hell I've held on to it for 6 years, but I have it. But I was too lazy to get up and get that. So, and the Stars and the Canucks were playing, so I missed the play-in games.
Wow.
Hey. I look, man, if the Stars are on, I'm not missing the Stars. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you a hockey hoe.
Got to be. But no, I mean, look, dude, I think it's fun when we get into the brackets. I know you were kind of you were not mad at me, but you wanted to take a little more time and enjoy the bracket before dialing into this.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm probably not going to be too happy this year at all. It's one of those years. It's like I do not know what way it's going to go. More than other years, I don't have a favorite team where I'm like, oh, they're going to run through it. Maybe that's because I really just don't want Bama to win.
That is the one thing right there. I think everybody, like, if the country needed something to unite on, like, it's coming together as united on. You do not want to see Alabama win this damn national championship because, I mean, it just is what it is. The circumstances are bad. Then you start seeing how things were portrayed in the SEC tournament with some of the shirts, and it's just really disgusting.
Oh, yeah. That shirt, the killing their way through the SEC.
Like, who in the hell logically thinks, like, that's disgusting. But anyway, yeah, so I'm the same way. I feel like when I was doing my bracket, I felt myself, like, apprehensive that I didn't go with enough upsets or I went with too many high seeds. And the more I kept looking at it, I couldn't talk myself into really putting that many upsets this year. And I feel like maybe that's me being cautious because in the past I've gone a little upset heavy and it come back to bite me. But when you're looking at the brackets, what were your thoughts on some of the upset games, or who are some of the teams like in the first round that you think should be on upset alert?
Well, Paxton just mentioned one in our chat room, Duke. I'm not high on Duke. And honestly, this might sound pretty cynical, a little mean, but the second that, like, every single one of those ESPN guys in their bracket breakdown went, you know what, I think Duke is at least making the Elite Eight. I'm just like, oh, so they're losing the first round. Like, they just have to be. Look, it's a tough matchup for Oral Roberts. I don't want to mince words. Duke's playing well lately. They've really turned it around. But, man, they got a good team with a good coach who's won a lot of games this year coming in. They're not going to be scared of them just because they're Duke.
Right.
Paul Mills runs a tight ship. So I think Duke is definitely on upset alert.
I would love to see Paul Mills and Oral Roberts pull that off. I just don't know that that's where I'm going with this one. I feel like Duke will make it a little further on, but it would mean the world. Like, I think it would be cool as hell to see that. That would be Oral Roberts is a unique team. They have great guard play, the great on the inside as well. I think for me, I would stick with another ACC team. I feel like Virginia's one who could be on upset alert there when you look at their matchup with Furman. The Cavaliers they've struggled down the stretch in the ACC play, even in the ACC tournament. Furman's shooting lights out from the field. I think that's one right there where you got to put the Cavaliers on upset alert.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the kind of public favorite upsets to pick right now, and I think that's for good reason. We could get into some crazier upsets, like maybe looking at some of those 8-9 matchups that could turn into some trouble for the 1 seeds. But, yeah, I definitely think that Virginia needs to be on their toes, ready to go, because Furman can just shoot over their pack line. Like,
yeah,
they need to be ready to close out everywhere on that 3-point line, and hope Furman just doesn't shoot well over the closeouts.
So another one that caught my eye, and
that sounds like a little bit too mean to Virginia. They should be the favorite in this game. Absolutely, they have more talent, but there's reason to be nervous.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm with you there. I'm still going to take Virginia in that one, but I feel like that's one that you can definitely look at. Another one that's garnering a lot of attention is 12 seed Charleston, number 5 San Diego State. I'm taking the Aztecs. I like their defensive play, but Charleston is lights out. I mean, they're electric. They could shoot all over the place. Their 3-point percentage is absurd. This is one where if you're betting against the line, I think it's probably safer to go with Charleston. I'm not a gambler, so I'm going to take the Aztecs. I'm going to take their defense.
Yeah, me too. Hate to not, need to disagree somewhat on a podcast, but nah, I feel pretty solid. The Aztecs are a good program historically. They don't get upset a lot. And, I mean, I trust Ken Palm on this one, honestly.
No, that's fair. That's another thing, too, is like when you dive into everything, you look at like Ken Palm's always legit with what they do. Another one that's kind of intriguing to me, and I've gone back and forth on this one a few times, is Tennessee and Louisiana. I know Tennessee's without their point guard coming into this one. The Raging Cajuns are kind of hit and miss. They were blown out earlier this season by Houston, and I believe Texas as well. But right now, I'm not really feeling Tennessee the way they kind of ended the season. This is one where I wouldn't be surprised if they won, but I kind of think Louisiana's going to pull the upset.
Yeah, I don't have Louisiana pulling the upset, but I find this funny because yesterday I did find a Reddit thread on the college basketball subreddit that was what is one hill you are going to die on heading into this tournament, and literally one comment right above the next comment was, the first one was, I'm going to die on the hill that everyone is underrating the talent that's still going to be on the floor for Tennessee.
Yeah.
And the next comment was, I'm going to die on the hill that Louisiana is upsetting Tennessee.
I think they can, man. It's an intriguing matchup. And Tennessee, like they had so many expectations early on in the year, but like they just kind of have lost their identity down the stretch. And I don't know that they can put it back together this soon.
I don't know if they've really lost their identity, though. They are one of the best defensive teams in the nation, and I believe they're still number 4 in Ken Palm, I think.
Right.
And obviously, losing your point guard really definitely hurts the offensive end.
No, it does.
Like there's no two ways about it. But I think they're beating Louisiana. There's not enough about Louisiana that stands out to me to say they're going to be able to really press that weakness for Tennessee, and they're really going to be able to outscore them going against one of the best defenses in the nation, which I don't think losing Ziegler on defense hurts as much as losing him on offense.
Right.
So I do see Tennessee losing in the second round, though. I'm trying to remember who that matchup is.
That would be Duke. That would either be Duke or Oral Roberts.
Yeah, I've got Oral Roberts going to the Sweet 16, personally. Every year, at least one double-digit seed makes the Sweet 16, and Oral Roberts was my first pick for it this year, though I do think I have Drake. I think I've got a pair of 12 seeds making the Sweet 16 in my bracket.
As far as double seeds in the Sweet 16 for me, I have one, and this is kind of my Cinderella. Do you have a Cinderella right now, or have you had time to?
I don't really have a Cinderella unless you count my 2 12 seeds making the Sweet 16. I don't have anyone below a 6 moving past the Sweet 16.
Okay, so then, all right, we'll make the 12 seed Cinderella then, because my team that I have is Drake.
Yeah.
And they're a 12 seed. I have them going to the Sweet 16 and getting beat by Houston. But
so why do they catch your eye?
They're older, man. And I think that right now you're going to see more of these teams come together, these mid-major programs where you have guys who have been around. You've had some tournament experience. They have really solid bigs on the inside, which I like. and their defensive efficiency is in the top 30 when it comes to Ken Baum ranking. So I like what they do. They're a fun, cohesive unit, and I feel like they're going to be a bad matchup for especially some of these teams that if you're relying on freshmen and sophomores getting thrown into the fire in the moment. I think the experience that Drake has built up is something that can propel them into the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I think it's honestly a pretty solid matchup for Drake because you've got an offense centered around two pretty damn good guards in Pack and Wong, but you've got a team that knows how to play good team defense. So if they can force Miami to win with everyone else not named Wong and Pack, or alternatively completely shut down everyone else and make Wong and Pack go for 40 apiece or 30 apiece, whatever it takes to beat Drake, either of those ways could pay great dividends to Drake and see them get into the next round where they would face off against a team like, I don't know, Indiana.
Right.
So
who themselves, a lot of people have Indiana even on upset alert too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could be an intriguing matchup.
Yeah, it's very intriguing, and I definitely think you're going with Drake's a good call for you, which is why I do too.
So, so Drake, you got them?
I've got Drake and Oral Roberts. They are 2-12 seeds in the Sweet 16 for me.
Okay. So I think that's fair. I only have the one. Your Final Four, getting into the Final Four, this is intriguing. I have Arizona, Purdue, Texas, and UConn. And I went back and forth. I initially had Kansas and Texas matched up, which would be a lot of fun. But the more I've listened, like yesterday on 365 Sports, we had Terrence Oglesby on from the Field of 68. And one of the teams that he was really high on and talking about matchups was UConn. And he's like the third person I've heard speaking highly of UConn. I haven't had an opportunity to watch the Huskies but like once or twice this year. So I don't have too much information on them. But after going back and doing the research, it was him. I believe it was Joe Lenardi was another one. I was doing some stuff, listening to what he had to say. But after doing that and listening to our resident Kansas fan and Paul in the house, who has become the resident Kansas guy with his connections with Amanda, and the lack of depth that always gets brought up when you're talking about Kansas. And I know Self had to miss some for the Big 12 tournament. I expect him to be back full healthy.
He's in good health.
Yeah, for tournament play. But at the end, I think that it's going to be a bad matchup with UConn. I think you're going to see everything come to fruition for Kansas, and it's going to be a tight game. But I feel like UConn can kind of push them at the end and then make that run into the Final Four.
Yeah. Again, I agree. I've got the same thing. It took me a minute. Kansas definitely very much impressed me. I got to see them live in person twice this year against Baylor, and their resilience impresses me. I worry about them not being in Kansas, getting knocked below Houston for the 2 overall seed, where Houston gets to play in Kansas City, I believe, and Kansas has to go to I can't remember exactly. It might be Vegas.
I think they're going to Vegas.
Yeah. So them not being able to have that real crazy home environment in the tournament, I think that hurts them. I do think the depth is a big concern. I know DeJuan Harris has had his ups and downs. Bobby Pettiford. These are like some of their more key bench guys. Uday in the post. Like they don't seem very reliable. So it's really, can their starting five, their core guys, can their core guys really step up to the plate, game in, game out for what? 5 straight games, 6 straight games.
Yeah,
I don't trust them. That's why I have UConn going past them.
Yeah, I've said it on here before. I think Jalen Wilson's been my favorite player to watch all year long. I'm excited to see what his future holds in the NBA. He's electric. And Harris, when it comes down to it, I think that's really the wild card for Kansas, because there have been I think you could probably go back and turn on the film and point out at least 5 games where if Harris just had a little more offensive production or was able to make that one steal, they would have even more wins. So it really kind of hinges on what he's able to do night in and night out. I expect him to be one of those guys who looks at the situation, realizing this is my last ride here. And kind of flip the switch and have a big tournament to make up for some of what you weren't able to contribute night in and night out through the Big 12 play and through the course of the season.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Looking at the rest of my Final Four, and I kind of want to go region by region real quick and just give a brief little. So I think that Houston and Bama honestly have some pretty easy roads.
Alabama
more
especially.
So. But then you go down to to the East and the West regions. Kansas is a very intriguing possible matchup in the second round with Arkansas. I think that's a bad.
That would be a bad matchup for Kansas. Yeah.
And similarly, I think Memphis is not a very good matchup for Purdue in the second round. Not to mention, I'm looking at. I think Purdue's got the toughest road to the Final Four out of all the 1 seeds, because you go from Memphis into what could be Duke.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have Duke there, but for all I know, it could be Duke. And Duke is not a bad team. They are playing well. So I doubt Tennessee makes it to that game. So that's a tough game. Then you throw on, they could come up with Kentucky, Kansas State, or Marquette in that Elite Eight game. Purdue already had a tough time with Marquette earlier this year. They won in the end, but Marquette's a damn good team. Kansas State's a gritty team. And Kentucky, it's Kentucky. They've got a guy who is probably one of the few bigs in the country in Sheboy who could actually battle pretty well one-on-one with
I would
Zach
love
Edey.
to see that. Like, I think that would probably be the best matchup of bigs, hands down, all year long. And it'd be intriguing to see if the refs actually stood back and let those two just go at it and battle in the paint. Like, I would, as somebody who's always been infatuated with like the big men and watching what happens in the post area, I would love to see that. Like, just let them go at it. Let it be 90s style. Like, let's get bloody.
Yeah,
let's just ride with it, dude.
I don't think we're going to see it, though. And beyond saying that I think Purdue is the toughest path to the Final Four out of all the 1 seeds, I still have them. Because if they get past Memphis, I'm looking at each game individually being like, well, I don't think they're going to lose to Oral Roberts. I don't think they're going to lose to Duke if Duke makes it there. I don't think they're going to lose to Kansas State or Marquette. Marquette's the one that scares me the most.
Yeah.
I've got Marquette in that game, in that Elite Eight game against Purdue. But I look at each game and I'm just like, man, I just don't see it. So in my Final Four, I've got Alabama against Purdue, and then I've got Houston topping Texas out of their region. And I actually have TCU upsetting Gonzaga, upsetting UCLA, and then losing to UConn. So UConn versus Houston and Alabama and Purdue.
No, I like that. You brought up right there when you were talking about the Memphis matchup for Purdue. See, I have FAU beating Memphis.
Oh, that's a great matchup in its own right. Don't get me wrong.
Like, I think that's going to be a fun one. And then as far as talking about Marquette, I think Marquette's a very intriguing team because there's no denying what they've been able to do this year. What Shaka has done is magnificent. It's good to see. I'm happy for him that he's been able to find himself and get back
Me too.
being
Get away from
comfortable.
Texas.
Yeah, which sucks, man, because I think that people at Texas always get in the way of good things, and it's not the inside. It's not necessarily the coaches. It's the people on the outside and that unnecessary influence of pressure that kind of cracks people. And I think you've seen that in the past with football coaches. That really impacted Shaka. So for him to go on to Marquette and get familiarity with himself and find himself and go back to doing what he was doing at VCU is really nice. I think it'll probably be one of the better games in the tournament is if Kansas State matches up with Marquette. I'm going to ride with Kansas State because
interesting.
I think it would be fun. And it's probably go down to like the final shot of the game, but I like Jerome Tang, what he's done there, building that culture. I think that Kansas State's got a lot of pride and a lot of the upperclassmen that they want to ride for. Seeing Johnson cut loose in the tournament, I'm really intrigued to see what he can do, and I think that would be a fun matchup to watch him in.
I just don't think Kansas State has the legs. And by has the legs, I mean, like, honestly, they had a very, very rough middle stretch to the Big 12.
No, they did.
And I take that and I look at that and I'm like, they could start hot in the tournament. It's going to be nice to get outside of those Big 12 teams. But when they get back into that grind, I'm not sure that they can just keep doing it, keep turning around, keep winning that short turnaround second game of the weekend kind of game. Even though I know the matchup with Marquette would be the first game of the weekend.
Yeah.
Marquette has one of the best offenses in the nation. And they have time and time again shown up and played well in their biggest games of the year.
Oh, no doubt.
Like, they slaughtered Baylor. They won the Big East by what, 2 games?
Yeah.
Like, that's a solid conference this year. And they went and they took care of it. Like, I love Kansas State. I've got a soft spot for Kansas State. I need that to be known. I'm scared that they're going to trip up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another reason why I don't have them going further. Playing some of the games in the bracket, not just looking at it from a basketball perspective, but from like, I'm trying to win some money off of my
absolutely.
friends.
Hell yeah.
Like, you've got to find the places where there's value, and you've got to cut your losses somewhat early. Like, I really honestly did not want to pick Purdue into my title game, but there's a certain value to it because I know everyone in my friend group for years I've talked up Purdue. They've gotten upset because it's Purdue.
Yeah.
And then they've been like, Jack, why'd I let you talk me up? And so it's about trying to find the value. And I know at this point, no one else is really going to have Purdue going that far in our bracket pool. So if this is the year Purdue finally gets over all of that, great. I'm going to win our bracket pool.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying here with Kansas State is I'm nervous they're going to get upset by a Kentucky or maybe by a Providence. Who knows? The point being, I'm not 100% certain they're going to get to that game in the Elite Eight with Marquette.
No,
that's part of why I've got Marquette. I'm that much more certain Marquette's going to be there.
Well, I mean, look, I think 95% of the country probably agrees with you. I mean, honestly, when you get down to it.
No. I am brave for going with the chalk.
You're going
I am brave. How dare you?
I don't want to take away your bravery. Look, all right, so you mentioned Baylor there, and I think that's something we do need to touch on because obviously this team, the core of it, the expectations were probably at least Elite Eight, Final Four or bust. And honestly, at this point, and I don't want to be the Debbie Downer or anything, but
do it.
I think it's going to be a bust in the ultimate expectations of the team is when they took the court in the offseason because I don't see them. And I was not going to pick them to make it to the Sweet 16 until they were able to get a 3 seed and they landed in a bracket that I thought was very favorable for them. So once that happened and you draw UC Santa Barbara the first round, the Gauchos, I mean, I know there's a lot of hype and expectation in their camp just from listening to the voice of the Gauchos talk the other day, but you haven't played a quad one team. I think Baylor's going to, even if Langston Love is questionable, I think Baylor's just got the firepower. They're going to blow them out of the water. And then I see the matchup with Creighton being intriguing. Creighton's really good. I think Creighton's could definitely test Baylor's weaknesses on the inside. But I see Baylor beating Creighton. It's just Sweet 16. It's curtains for the Bears, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to agree. I do think there is a decent shot that they could beat Arizona. I think Arizona would let Baylor play the type of game where Baylor can stay in it. Like, I don't think Arizona is that crazy good defensively to just shut Baylor down.
Yeah.
And Baylor has played well against some damn good teams. Baylor beat Texas. Baylor beat Kansas at home. That definitely affects it.
Yep.
Point is, there's a lot of talent, and I got to agree. I definitely felt like before the year, it was Final Four or bust. And that was without considering Jonathan Chama coming back.
No, exactly.
But stuff has not panned out the way we thought it would. I am still shocked at how poor the defense is. I've had to ask this question a couple times over the last weeks. Is like, man, just how much of different draft decisions and guys staying and guys transferring, just how much has that affected the long-term roster building vision for Scott Drew? Because you could see all of a sudden it was like, we don't have the backup centers. We're like, they were at the start of the end of last season, so the start of last offseason, they were very, very light in the front court, both positions, 4 and 5.
Yep.
It's a little astounding to me that there has not been someone to come along at the center position to de-seat Flo.
Yeah.
It's surprising to me that they had to bring in 4 transfers, like between Bridges and Lohner. And Lohner did not pan out. Not this year, at least. So there are deficiencies that we didn't think were there. And I remember there was a whole storyline about, was Bridges a good transfer? And then he got hot at the start of Big 12.
After he went back to Morgantown, then he blew up.
It's been a different story since. It's just none of it has gelled defensively. And it's kind of amazing with the amount of offensive talent they have that all these guys together create a team that's just so defensively deficient.
Yeah, it's really mind-boggling, and I think it's one of those, and I really see it the most with Keontae, because like when I watch him, and I know there's a lot of hype, and he is going to be an NBA player, but I'm like, dude, you're essentially playing AAU ball. Like you're taking defense off, you're throwing shots up, and like it's not for me.
I think that just gets to the core difference of the AAU is much more like the NBA
Oh, it
college
definitely is.
So, like, college is its own breed, and there's a reason why I think it's the best
Yeah.
sport in the world. College basketball is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway.
point is, I've got Houston as my champion, and I'm feeling honestly pretty solid about that. They've got an easy path. They've got a talented team. It's just, were they tested enough this year?
That's the biggest question for me. And obviously, like Sasser, how well is he going to look coming off that injury? I think he's going to be fine. I would love to see the Cougars win it in their hometown. I think that would be awesome. I have them getting beat in the Elite Eight by Texas, though.
That's going to be a tough matchup.
That's really going to be, and that's another thing too. Is Timmy like is Drew Timmy, right? That's not Drew Timmy, but Timmy Allen that's hurt. So it's a matter of him coming back. I have Arizona beating UConn. I think Arizona is one of those teams that I like Kerr. I know he hurt his shoulder, but he still was pretty good in that matchup with UCLA in the Pac-12 championship game. I like their inside, what they're able to do with the two bigs. I love Tommy Lloyd as a coach. I just feel like this is a team where they were bumped last year in the Sweet 16, so they had that bitter taste in their mouth. They have everybody coming back. I think they're poised for a run. It's just a matter of, can you get by Bama? That's a very bad matchup for Arizona. I think Bama is a better version of UCLA, obviously, with how their offense is set up. So that's poised some issues for the Wildcats this season. But I'm going to ride with Arizona, cutting down the nets in Houston over UConn, 67-63. But, it's March. Anything can happen, so we'll see.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. But from basketball, let's get into some football talk. In particular, I want to go to the Big Ten. I found an article on the Athletic Jack.
Do you want to take a break?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm setting it. No, I found an article on the Athletic talking about the Big Ten, and it's kind of a preview, and it got me looking at some of the quarterbacks in there. I know we've talked in the past about the Pac-12 and their quarterbacks, so I want to get into some of the Big Ten quarterbacks and the expectations for them coming up next season. That'll be next here on the College Chaos Podcast.
And welcome back into the College Chaos Podcast. I'm Jack McKenzie, this is Garrett Ross, and we're going to talk some Big Ten quarterbacks and other spring football questions. Specifically, I think we should start off with who you think is under the most pressure this year in the Big Ten, Garrett?
So this was intriguing because I think while there are a lot of options out there, you could probably go with like Cade McNamara and what he's going to be able to do at Iowa and their insufficient offense and inept ability to move the ball, which they've actually put in some new restrictions this year and on the coaching staff. But I'm going to go with Kyle McCord at Ohio State. He's obviously going to have to win the battle against Devin Brown. I think he will do that. But anytime you're a quarterback at Ohio State, I think the pressure is just surreal. And then you're following up a guy who like CJ Stroud, who likely could be the top pick in the NFL draft this season, or at least number 2, depending. And then we just look historically at what they've been able to do. Coming into this, you're going to have Brian Hartline's going to come over. He's going to be the offensive coordinator now. How does that transition? What's that going to look like? He's had experience in the past. Obviously, you're still going to have Marvin Mims there to rely on. And I think anytime you arguably have the best receiver in the nation, that's going to be a good safety blanket for you. But how do you adapt on the fly? How do you fit into the expectations of you got to get this team in playoff contention year in and year out? And then now that Michigan has stepped up, they've bullied you, they've won the past couple of matchups, is he ready to step into that game and put the Buckeyes back on the W side of that? So looking at all that combined, I feel like that's going to be a lot of pressure. I think he'll be able to handle it. I trust what they're able to do with that position group up there in Columbus. But right now, as we're looking at it, I think he's got the most pressure of any quarterback in the Big Ten.
Oh, I would agree he's got the most pressure. I'm a little more hesitant on whether he's going to step up to that plate in the way that Ohio State needs. Because let's be real, they need a win over Michigan this year.
No, they do.
Everything else be damned, they need to beat Michigan this year.
I think if they don't, Ryan Day was probably going to be on the hot seat.
Oh, yeah.
Which is stupid because
I think he's gone if they lose to
it
Michigan
probably
this year.
is, which is ridiculous because I don't care, man. It's almost – to me, it would be kind of like what you saw Georgia do with Mark Richt, where you're winning 10 games year in and year out, and for whatever reason, it's just not good. Which, I mean, maybe that's a bad example because
that's a pretty bad example.
You bring in the guy who – so
you're mad because you're not winning championships, and you bring in a guy who can
so
win championships.
maybe that's what will happen. Maybe that's what they need up there. Maybe, and it's weird to say, but maybe that's what it would take to get them a national championship. But, yeah, there's no way in hell they lose this game to Michigan this year and Ryan Day stays.
I don't want to derail the segment, but I just had a really interesting question pop into my head. Could Ohio State stomach hiring a Saban or Smart disciple?
Yeah, hell yeah. Why couldn't they? Why wouldn't they?
Do you want to admit that the SEC is the home of the best? I feel like that's a way of admitting it.
Man, I don't think it's.
Maybe I'm reading into it too much.
No, I think that's just a matter of getting somebody who you know is got the training from the Jedi Master to come in and lead your program. I don't think it's. Dude, you took Urban Meyer. I don't care what about a Nick Saban disciple.
Yeah, you took the master. You didn't take a disciple. There's something about it, and we'll get back to all the quarterbacks real quick, but there's just something about it that feels like you're kind of admitting defeat to the SEC and taking one of their assistants to be your head coach.
I think right there.
Because you don't have championship-winning head coaches in your conference.
I think you might. I mean...
you're more interested in it.
That's a topic. You're gonna have to let me do some thinking on that, bro. We might run that segment next week.
Yeah, I think we should. Also, real quick, back to your Iowa bit.
Yeah,
the quarterback at Iowa is under no pressure. None.
He don't have any pressure at all?
He has no pressure because there are zero expectations because Brian Ferentz is still their offensive coordinator. I don't know what you're talking about pressure. The pressure's on Brian Ferentz to perform.
But he's not out there throwing the ball. He's the one calling the play. So I feel like maybe there's some of that. He might have like a little cut, like if you help me.
The quarterback might literally do worse the first 3 weeks to get him fired so he could play in a better offense. The Iowa quarterback is under no pressure. Anyway, who's your sleeper?
My sleeper is going to be Tanner Mordecai.
I like that.
I really like Tanner. I've had opportunity to know and watch him since high school here in Waco area. I think he kind of I think what happened at Oklahoma can be looked at in two ways. You can look at it as this guy just never got it or developed and forced to hit the portal and go on, or you can look at it as this guy learned from one of the best damn quarterback coaches that the game has seen in Lincoln Riley, and he also learned how to play the game behind guys like Kyler Murray. That's how I'm looking at it. And I'm thinking that that has benefited him in his journey because what he was able to do at SMU was really remarkable. I think that he gained a lot of respect playing against Luke Fickell in the American. And you know, he saw that like that was a guy that Fickell was like, you know what? I would love to have him run my offense. Now I have an opportunity to make that happen. You pair him with Phil Longo, who is going to come in, another Mike Leach disciple who's going to want to air the ball out. Tanner has had some issues in the past with ball security, which I'm going to be interested to see how that translates against Big Ten DBs and defenses. I think that might be a learning curve that could get him at times. And he's also really resilient, and he's got that killer instinct to where if he's in the red zone and he sees an opportunity to make a play or go for it, he's going to put his body on the line, which could backfire in some cases. But I like what they're able to do, what I'm expecting to see him do in this offense in year one. I think he's my sleeper, man.
Yeah, I think Hudson Card's another good sleeper option. I'll get to him. We'll get to him in a minute at Purdue with Graham Harrell's associate. But the thing that you touched on real quick about Mordecai that intrigues me is that mix of he couldn't beat out literal Heisman winners.
Yeah.
Big whoop. He's still probably pretty good. He was clearly one of the best, if not the best, group of five quarterback. Yeah. The question is, can he? The thing we just have not seen is can he perform against Power 5 defenses? Very good Power 5 defenses. He's going to have to play Iowa.
Yeah.
He's going to have to play other good Power 5. I don't know how much Illinois is going to return. The point is, there are good defenses in the Big Ten West. There are good defenses in the Big Ten at large. And that is the only thing that's unproven to me, along with just the pairing of him and Phil Longo being new.
No, and
I still think he's going to have a good year. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a very good pick for sleeper.
No, and I think that's probably the beauty in it, because if you're Tanner, you're looking at, okay, I've done everything that has been asked of me. I've exceeded or matched all expectations. If my goal is to make it to the NFL, this is my one opportunity, thanks to the transfer portal, where I can go in and see what it's going to be like to play, obviously not on the level of NFL defenses, but closer caliber than what you've seen at any other time in your year. Like, this is your opportunity to put out a resume for the NFL if that's your goal. So I'm interested to see if he's able to capitalize on that.
Oh, me too. Definitely. So what's your take on Hudson Card at Purdue then? If he's not the sleeper, what kind of category do you put him in?
Hudson Card for me is my breakout player, because I love Hudson Card. I was really high on him since, like I said, even his days at high school, covering him in recruiting. I think what happened at Texas was a situation where it kind of like what Tanner dealt with. You were in a position where you were behind guys like Malik Murphy, who were touted higher than you for whatever reason. And then obviously the elephant in the room was Quinn Ewers. When Quinn decided to come back to Texas from Ohio State, because he always wanted to go to Texas in the first place, just with Tom Herman, that wasn't going to work. So when Quinn came in, that kind of put Hudson on the back burner. And while it really comes down to playing, he had his opportunities and he wasn't able to do that. You can kind of read between the lines on it. But I think getting him, with the experience he's had, the coaching, the tutelage, everything he's seen throughout his whole progression and growth as a player, I'm talking about even in high school camp circuits and stuff, he's dealt with the best of the best. And now you give him an opportunity where everybody is all in on you. You're the guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that, knowing that support behind it, paired with Graham Harrell and what he's able to do, two guys who know, the Texas ties, you're relatable, you're comfortable. I think they could torch some people.
I think there's a lot going for them too. The thing that scares me, and this is going to be weird at being the Purdue guy in the room and kind of being maybe the negative Nelly on it, Harrell had what we all thought was an exciting transfer at West Virginia last year.
No.
It's not. West Virginia is not a program coming off of a championship game appearance. It's not a program, but it's also not a program that had a new head coach.
True.
There's pluses and minuses. The receiving core at West Virginia that Harrell had to work with last year, That's a damn good receiving core. So as much as I enjoy Purdue, as much as I enjoy their success, a new head coach, a new quarterback, a new OC, after they reached heights last year, I am nervous about how things are going to start out.
No,
I want him to be the breakout star. I just don't know how many wins that carries them to. Even if he is the breakout star, does that carry them to another 8-win season, or does it just get them bowling?
I think it's a situation where you're probably not looking at, and this is me going blind without seeing their schedule. I think while you want to get to where you were last year, if you lose a couple of less games and you still go bowl eligible, but you see that you're laying the foundation for something to grow on, like if you see the positives in it, then I wouldn't be too worried. But I think that's really kind of basing that on what are tempering fan expectations and then the reality of the situation. I think you saw that a lot with Baylor, and the Randa and the transition that you saw. And I think it's just a matter of being patient. And if you're Purdue, it's not like you're Ohio State where you've got to win now. I think that your fan base traditionally has
some of the worst PTSD
exactly
out there.
And you're going, but I feel like you've got to be willing to just give this an opportunity. I think it'll work.
I think it should be great. I think they should go bowling. I'm nervous that it might not go further than that, even though there's a lot of talent, a lot of reason to be happy there.
No, it is. And I think another thing this does is, which we knew this was, I say we, I think people who are familiar with Graham Harrell and familiar with Texas in general knew this was a great hire because, and obviously you're going to draw the parallels back to Drew Brees coming out of Westlake and going there. That was a different situation. Now you have not only the Drew Brees tie, but you have Graham Harrell, who is familiar with Texas. Now you got Hudson Card, a Texas quarterback. And I believe that you have a couple others on your roster as well that will have Texas ties. But you've already gotten a 2024 commit in the quarterback position from Marcus Davila from Midland Legacy. I love this kid. I think he's going to be remarkable up there. So I think this bringing in Card, bringing in Graham Harrell, it's just going to open the door for westward expansion. I think you're going to see Purdue benefit from the state of Texas going forward because of this.
Hopefully, and I definitely think it's good long-term growth moves, bringing Harrell in. Card in the short term, we'll see. Now, if you had one quarterback to lead a game-winning drive in the Big Ten, is it someone you've already named? Who's leading? Who do you trust in that fourth quarter to win you the game?
So this is where things get tricky because there are a lot of quarterbacks there that I like, but there's not really necessarily a guy that blows me away.
Yeah, like there's some supremely talented guys, but they're not proven. There's some guys who've been around, but they're not supremely talented.
So I think if I had right now with this group, I'm probably going to go with Talia Tungavailoa at Maryland because he's got the most experience. This is a guy who's thrown for over 3,000 yards, has over 18 touchdowns on the ground. I just feel like if I need a game, if the game is on the line right now, there's just not enough experience other than him. So I would rely on that. Now, there's probably you can make arguments against that, but right now, I'm going right with Tungavailoa.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say against that. I don't think anyone else really stands out too much above him in the conference. End of the day, a lot of it has to do with the talent around you.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I think Talia can do the most with what he's got. So I think that puts a nice little bow on our Big Ten quarterback segment. What do you think?
Yeah, it does. And so we're going to put a bow on this show next, but I found – so there was a couple of segments I was looking at, me and you were debating, and one we're going to pocket and we're going to save for next week because we had some breaking news come out today regarding the Big 12, Brett Yormark's younger, hipper, cooler movement, and what that means for future pro days regarding football. We're going to get into that next here on the College Chaos Podcast. Welcome back into the College Chaos Podcast. I'm Garrett Ross. He's Jack McKenzie, and we appreciate you for tuning in and listening. And so, Jack, I was doing some show prep this morning, and I'm going through it, and I was really intrigued by this one story regarding Southern California recruiting and how that impacts with the SC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. And I got a lot of great information from that, but then I went to check my email this morning, and the wonderful people at the Big 12 dropped the email saying that Brett Yormark strikes again. His business prowess and genius has not only carried over from basketball and what they were able to do with the Big 12 tournament this year, they had the largest capacity ever, which was remarkable to see. I know some of the press wasn't really pleased with where they had to sit.
No, they weren't.
But I think overall, that's what he was able to do by selling the seats and getting more people involved closer to the floor. The Big 12 Eats part, I thought that was a really unique twist on it. Having Shaq come out and throw the concert. Like you saw the video, that place was rocking. So now he's taken that innovation and put it on the football side to where the Big 12 is partnering with the NFL to become the first ever conference to do league-wide pro days. And why nobody has thought of this before, especially if you're like the SEC and the Big Ten, who you're the leagues everybody talks to first and foremost when it comes to football, boggles my mind.
It blew my mind. It's insane to me.
You know what this reminded me of too was kind of like the innovative, and I know this really wasn't perceived well across the nation, but when Michigan started doing the satellite camps with Harbaugh, and that he was going everywhere, and everybody's like, "What the hell? Why is Michigan here practicing in Florida?" That was pissing people off. I feel like this is one of those scenarios where Brett Yormark saw an opportunity, and he was like, "Well, we're going to leave our mark on football." And it's just one of those situations. I love it, but the event's going to take place at the Star in Frisco, which, if you're not familiar with that is where the Dallas Cowboys practice.
Mm-hmm. Really nice area.
It is. And I know a lot of people would probably draw questions to, well, if I'm UCF, why would I want to come from Orlando to Dallas to do my pro day? If I'm BYU from Provo, yada, yada. It's the Dallas Cowboys facility, and the NFL is hosting it. So I think that's one of those things where anybody's going to come to that.
It's a conference-specific combine that I believe they're not going to put any extra cap on who can go.
No.
So all these guys will be in a centralized area for NFL scouts to easily travel to and attend. They're going to get more eyeballs on themselves, on the players, than they probably could in any given year for a pro day. I was in here with Paul earlier, who's a host on 365 Sports. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about how, for the RG3 pro day here at Baylor, everyone was here. Anyone was here. And then 2 years ago, it was like no one was here because there just weren't NFL prospects.
Exactly.
There's always going to be at least a few. You have to go watch him NFL prospects in the conference, and that will bring the eyeballs. It should help. Honestly, it should make a market difference. Maybe not significant, but a market difference in the amount of Big 12 players that get drafted in the late rounds if this stays a unique thing for the Big 12.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is I don't know that it will stay unique because I think you're going to see –
it shouldn't. This is such a smart idea. Every conference should copy it immediately.
No, absolutely. And not only you're getting the best in medical care. They're going to run these screens and everything. And then you're not only that, but you're also going to have – like a job fair. So you're going to have players who, even if you're not necessarily going to make it to the league, then you can meet with people in the Big 12. And obviously the NFL is probably going to have some people there as well. You can market yourself. You could see your trade and how you could develop yourself if you don't have an opportunity to play in the NFL. So there's such a larger scheme that's going to benefit people because there's so many guys. Like I could think right now of everybody that left Baylor's team this year, right? Like other than two, like most of those guys probably aren't going to get drafted. Yep. And then you got to figure out, well, do I want to go to the Canadian Football League or XFL, USFL, or do I want to just say, I'm tired of football. Let's go on with what my degree was. Well, this gives you a head start to where you're not having to hunt down people to network. It's all in a centralized location, dude. That's brilliant.
It's a very nice holistic approach. And they also did not neglect the fans in this. The fans won't be able to watch the actual drills and such. That's just going to be for scouts and media still. But they're going to have like a fan fest outside as well, in a great location to host it, in a cool place. And I love the culture building. I love that that Brett Yormark and the Big 12 are trying to make the Big 12 have events, have things outside of the sporting events to draw people, to bring people in, to be like, this is the Big 12. It's like they're just creating the brand almost out of thin air. They're just like, we're going to be a conference that has fun.
This isn't your grandpa's Big 12.
We want to have fun. No, it's great.
I love it, man. And I think in a time where NIL is so prominent, and you're seeing all of the blue chip players who want their big NIL deals going to like the SEC and the Big Ten. If you want to keep your conference relevant, I think that's the one thing where Brett Yormark has kind of embraced, like, we are and maybe saying embrace the third wheel is wrong, but you know where you're at as a football league, and you're doing what you can to capitalize off of. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, you've accepted
it's like they've gone from being we're the third
pity
choice,
me,
we're the
poor
leftovers,
me,
to the nah, we're that crazy uncle. We're gonna have some fun.
It's like Maction, you know, like you had the Mac just lit it up, and that you would take over weeknight games.
Except it's more popular and it's higher quality.
I think it's genius, and I'm interested to see what it does, man.
The only thing that I need them to do with this, I absolutely need them to do with this, is make it all seem like a competition in the drills. Put those 40 times up next to each other with the school logos. Have have Baylor and TCU guys running 40s because they want to get their not just themselves, but have their team logo be the rivalry. Have it not just be like these guys are trying to do the best for them individual selves. Make it a team thing. So I'm not saying like have a winner and a loser. Just like have leaderboards.
You need a winner and a loser.
You don't. Maybe you need to have a winner and a loser, but like have leaderboards. Have guys show and make sure you have the branding of the teams. That way the fans have something to latch on to.
Dude, I think it's gonna like the experience to me feels.
Are they televising it?
Yeah, hell yeah, it's going to be on the NFL Network.
Leaderboards.
See, I think you would, and to me, it's built up almost like the NFL draft, where it is an event. You have people. I think you're going to have fans kind of like come from all over, dude. It's remarkable. I think it's going to be something that
better yet. Brett Yormark, listen to me right now.
Run it.
Have the broadcast have the 40 times of the players on one side while you're showing all that. Cut to the fans and have them have a 40 competition outside and compare them.
Dude, or the head
put
coaches.
Them side to side to show just how great the players are and just how bad the fans are, or surprisingly good the fans are. And just like bring in the fan fest to all of it and just make it an event.
Do you think we can get the coaches out there to do make them do some 40s, like see David Randa going up against Dana Holgerson?
No.
Like does the baldness help with the mullet? Like does that help with some wind?
I don't think there's a shot in hell, but I'd love to see it. That's a great idea.
Or have the mascots out there. You got West Virginia's using the musket.
Ooh, mascot. Brett,
see, there's so many opportunities.
Brett, you got to listen to us.
Dude, you
got to listen to this podcast, Brett.
We have plenty of ideas.
Go up to Irving. I'm from Irving. I know exactly where the office is. It's right next to the Church of Scientology. Yes, that's a fact. But we'll be there, and we'll brainstorm this stuff.
I love it, man. But no, look, when I saw that, I got really excited. I think it's the future's bright for the Big 12, regardless of what happens with expansion. And like I said, I think it's going to be a fun league who is accepting their identity and embracing their identity, and that's going to make it so much fun for everybody involved.
Yeah. And you know what I honestly love the most about this right now? It just kind of hit me. I'm excited about this.
You should be.
I'm truly excited about this. It seems like it's something fun, and it seems like it's the first thing Big 12 related I've been excited. Not the first. I was excited about the schedule release when they did that.
When was the last time you were excited about Big 12 schedule release, though? Exactly.
It wasn't even an event in my mind. And beyond that, I was excited about the idea that DJ Diesel's Shaq was at the Big 12 tournament. And KC Live's a cool venue. basically they're chaining event after event, things you're excited about next to thing to get excited about. Jeez, I tripped over that. The point is, with all those things together, I'm not even worried about whether or not Arizona State might come. Great. Join the party.
You do. If you don't, you don't.
But like, as a Big 12 fan, I feel pretty damn good about where the Big 12 is at and where it's heading under Brett Yormark.
It's remarkable. And the cool thing is, not only do you have great leadership, you have fun, innovative thinking. You have a group of coaches, athletic directors, everybody who want to be together. And that's something that makes any conference special. I think that's really what's kept the SEC as strong as it's been for so long. And you're starting to see that pride in the Big 12. And it's going to be fun to watch and see what they can build on going forward.
Yeah.
But you got anything else before we roll out?
Nah, man. I mean, other than to quote our good friend JD back from his days here in this studio, let's keep the party rolling. Keep the
party rolling, man. And we appreciate you listening. Make sure you go to Sikkim365.com, subscribe, check out all the Baylor content we have there, as well as the array of shows we have across our channels. But thanks for listening. We appreciate you when you do. I'm Garrett. He's Jack. This has been the College Chaos Podcast.